What it do, people? What it do? Solo dolo episode here, Samson. Uh, yeah, Moody's out. Holiday break. Everybody's got to get their rest and relaxation. Did not want to leave y'all empty-handed without a holiday episode. So we were originally show notes. We were originally going to have this be the second annual Uppies, but obviously we rather have both of us here to kind of give our thoughts and feedback on the awards that we'll be handing out. So we'll do that next week for next week episode, top of the year, as we prepare for, I guess, would be before WWE gets into their New Year's week of episodes and whatnot, which should be jam packed. But yeah, we are still here though, episode 77. Percy's. I'll start with one. So just on the movie front, end of the year, we're at I as people might know, I tune in I go to the movies very often. This year, I made it to 93 movies in the theaters. The goal has always been I've been a subscriber to both AMC and Alamo Draft House, so I just go to movies anytime I want to. The goal was to hit to 100. Did not make it, but this is the closest that I have been in a while. So I set a record, personal high, but still haven't reached that 100. But I saw a trailer uh, that kind of surprised me. I thought I caught it a few weeks ago, but I had to go throw something in the trash, so I kind of missed it a little bit. But then I caught it this week. It's a movie called Night Patrol. I don't know much about it. It seems like it's about cops finding that there's like kind of like vampires in the neighborhood. It has Justin Long. If you're familiar with Justin Long, he's been in plethora of things. He's, well-known actor. Um, and two surprising people I didn't expect to be in a movie together. Freddie Gibbs, rapper Freddie Gibbs, and also CM Punk, credited as Phil Brooks. And I was like, oh, what? Like, it took me a minute to realize that that was CM Punk in the movie. But sure enough, CM Punk plays it looks like the antagonistic cop in the movie. And so just off of that, I mean, the movie itself looks pretty interesting, pretty dope. Looks like there's some comedy in it, but it's definitely like in that uh the spoiler, I guess it'd be kind of a spoiler. You can kind of see it in the trailer. Kind of vampiric police officer. But it looks very interesting, looks gonna be funny, and I'm curious to see both on how Freddie Gibbs and Justin Long do well in this, because again, I've never seen Freddie Gibbs in a movie, and looking through CM Punk's filmography, he has been in some movies prior to this, especially during his wrestling hiatus. A lot of them were horror movies, so this seems like his right up his alley that he is a horror fanatic. So looking forward to seeing how that plays out. So that comes out mid-January. I want to say January 16th. It's called Night Patrol, starring Justin Long and Freddie Gibbs and CM Punk, among others. But yeah, let's keep it simple, man. This should be a pretty light episode, and we got AEW's World Ends to get to predict. So let's start the show.
Doors opening. Step back to allow customers to exit.
Cut in through the crowd is Alicia Hayes, Samson, not here with my tag team partner, but always in spirit. French fry pro Moody coming off the top rope. And this is the Wrestling Rhea Podcast, a weekly stroll through the avenue of wrestling. It's everywhere up on social, TikTok, Twitter, Twitch eventually, always on this YouTube channel. Like, subscribe, and everything. Comment, share, do it all on the Wrestling Rhea Podcast. Episode 77. I do not have the top 77s in the sports. We'll make those up as we go along, but we're glad to have people here. Hope everyone enjoyed their holidays, whichever holiday you celebrate, and we're just continuing on here on the Wrestling Rhea Podcast. We got a pretty light week on wrestling, a lot of pre-tape shows, as you would imagine, as there's no argument over here because it is the holiday season and we want everybody to have breaks just as much as we want breaks. So no fault to their own. We have a lot of pre-tapes, but it makes sense. There was still some interesting stuff. I will say the WWE side was a little lackluster, but they did end it on a high note, which we'll get to once we get to SmackDown. But we can head straight into the flagship store, Monday Night Raw. And Monday Night Raw should be fairly quick because this was a pretty lackluster episode of Raw. I genuinely don't have much on this card. I'll go through just to kind of give the rundown of what was on this card here. But we started off the show with Asuka versus Rhea Ripley in a one-on-one battle, which Asuka won through some interference and some shenanigans. Io Sky was nursing a back injury, and she sold it as well as she could. Well, when she got her legs pulled up from under her and hitting her back on the side of the ring apron, which I thought was pretty hilarious. It might be my champion of the week for her because I thought her selling was just hilarious in that moment. But hey, it makes sense. You got a back injury, and you landed square on the lower part of your back where you're injured. Maxine and Becky had a little one-on-one confrontation in the ring, just kind of back and forth promo. Some good barbs back and forth. I think Maxine had a good line about Becky kind of being her best years are behind her, and that seemed to look really good under Becky's skin. Same time, Becky Lynch has been playing the hell out of this heel character, just kind of accentuating all these Trumpisms and just saying that she Lynch did not, according to the Bleach Board, Lynch did not ingratiate herself to the fans by calling the state, which they were in Michigan, miserable, quote, miserable Michigan, even if she clarified that the Netflix official said it, not her, which again just goes great to the heel aspect of how she's been playing this character. Javon Evans had a one-on-one match against Ryo Americano. Javon ends up winning that. I still can't even tell which one is which of Ryo and the other Americano, which again, they haven't even been on TV in weeks, so that's to say what that is. But Nikki Bella cut out a little quick promo standing on top of the announce table, just asking why everyone's disrespecting her, and she's just, claiming her throne, her chance to win against Stephanie on the New Year's week episode of Raw next week, winning her a title back, and yeah, it was decent enough. None to write home about. Um, Bailey versus Roxanne versus Perez. Bailey ends up getting the win, and this is probably my only thing that I have on the card because I thought there was an interesting development that was happening where obviously shenanigans were at play. The Judgment Day ladies, both Liv and Raquel, were trying to interfere on behalf of Roxanne. Liv first initially getting some distractions, ended up getting Roxanne to allow her to unbuckle the second top rope turnbuckle, exposing the ring, exposing the turnbuckle kind of metal. Gets her in the pin, gets Bailey in the pin position, but the referee's distracted because Raquel's on top of the ropes and kind of talking to the ref for whatever reason. I don't understand it at all. Uh, then all of a sudden, Liv Morgan pulls Raquel down and starts, getting the argument on that you're messing it up and everything like that. Causes a whole distraction. Roxanne is trying to calm them down. She points out that Lyra's behind them. She takes them out. Bailey ends up getting the 1, 2, 3. So again, I have it in shade just for the interesting development of how the friction that is being developed between Raquel, Roxanne, and Liv. And backstage, there was a segment where they were kind of trying to talk it out, but then Raquel ended up leaving a little disgruntled. So keep an eye on that in the next coming weeks to see what happens. I think everybody's been predicting that Liv would be the one kind of causing the friction, but it seems interesting that fact that Raquel is the one that not I don't know if she's causing the friction, but it seems that Liv and Roxanne are more on the same page than Roxanne and then Roxanne and Raquel or Raquel and Liv. There's a lot of R's in that. So it's part of me for butchering what I'm saying right now. Gunther comes out, continues to make these heel promos, getting the crowd against them, just kind of continuing to antagonize everyone that has been cheering for Cena to win, but obviously didn't. Seems to be making more enemies with both CM Punk and AJ Styles, so we'll see how that comes into fruition, but really nothing too juicy out of that. And then we finally end the night with CM Punk and Rey Mysterio versus Austin Theory and Bronson Reed. Austin Theory wanted to prove himself for the Vision, and it was interesting in the fact that Bronson was kind of letting Austin kind of take the reins and kind of like, okay, let's see what you got, Lone Buck. If you're really trying to be a part of the Vision and trying to earn your keep around here, let's see what you got. Decent enough match. Austin Theory ends up getting the win with the curb stomp. Same shenanigans happen. CM Punk is on the top rope, calling somebody out, turns around, Braun Breaker comes out, spears him, end of the show. So, again, Nothing to complain about. If this was a regular week of wrestling, party in the sunlight. It's just that time of the day right now. If this was a regular week of wrestling, then this would be a much more scrutinized episode of wrestling. But again, I'm giving them a pass for mostly for the fact that it is a holiday break. This is pre-tape, so could have been better, sure. But again, I think they also know people were already in that holiday mindset and just kind of giving them that. But nothing too much to write about on Raw. That's why we can easily kind of get past this. Like I said, the thing that stuck out to me is just the friction that is building up between the ladies of the Judgment Day, and I'm curious to see how that kind of plays out in the next coming weeks, and especially once we get into the Rumble aspect. But probably one of the worst episodes of Raw of the year. But if you're gonna have it during your holiday break, you might as well because you know you're probably not gonna get that many viewers in general because of the holidays. Let's move over to NXT, the Bodega. NXT, pretty decent show. Didn't have much either on here. The things that stood out to me were none of the matches. It was just the two promos. First, the Ricky and Javon promo I thought was really good. Both are really good on the mic. Javon has just a organic young YN appeal to his promo work where it just feels very natural and it just feels like he's not even playing a character. He's really just genuinely being himself. And then Ricky's rationale just being all in his ego as far as believing that, like, yeah, I'm the star, I'm the money maker, I can go into these different places and still be the dominant. Good back and forth. I'm looking forward to when they get into the ring with one another and actually duke it out. I will say it's a bit of a toss up right now, especially in where Javon is right now, as far as kind of in that limbo area between getting called up into the main roster, but also still appearing on NXT. But obviously, Ricky's still on NXT. So if I had to give an edge, I feel like it might be Ricky, just for the fact that he's going to be on NXT and Javon can take that loss. And, nobody on the main roster, people that don't watch NXT won't even know. And they'll just be like, oh, yeah, we've seen Javon Evans and he's awesome. So I don't think it would hurt Javon to lose this match. But right now it's a toss up. Good thing we don't have to make predictions on that. But I really enjoyed the promo. They're really good mic workers on both ends, and they do it differently, which is a really interesting appeal. And then the other promo that I really enjoyed was the Blake and Thea promo, which geared us up to set up a matchup for New Year's Evil for a rematch for Blake to possibly win her title back. Obviously, what we talked about last week, Thea getting the surprise upset win over Blake Monroe, which was unplanned. And they had to do a bunch of reshoots because they've already did everything. They had a lot of pre-recording. But I thought the promo was good, especially on Blake's part. She plays a really great, like, annoying heel, and how she just complains and whines like a little child, and the way she was like, just give it back, and all that stuff. So she's very entertaining in that sense. I do think Thea's title reign will be short just for the fact that it was unplanned, but it'd be interesting to see if they just kind of build upon it and just let her hold that reign and watch Blake continue to go into descent. But outside of that, the matches, none really too much to write about. We had Lola Vice versus Izzy Dane. Decent match in itself. There's some shenanigans at play that I think we'll get to when Moody's Champion of the Week, as he called out. Shout out to Tatum Paxley. Decent enough. Lola Vice got that win over Izzy Dane. Eli Knight versus Tavion Heights in a Speed Championship tournament match to see who faces off with for Jasper Troy's Speed title. Tavion Heights gets that win. I think Eli Speed is Evolve. Yes, it's from Evolve. So he made his NXT debut. So obviously, you know how that dynamic goes. The NXT is higher in stature that you should expect Tavion Heights to win that match. Leon Slater, Obafemi, I'll add that to my mid. I thought this was a good promo on both sides, especially the fact that Leon is, this easily could have been establishing an easy heel versus, face dynamic. But I think Leon came out really well, and how he was talking about, like, I've been the man in the house since I was, 9 years old, being, single mother with a little sister and having to take the mantle of that. I've been training for that long as well. And Obo was talking about how he respects his story and this, that, and the nature, but you're coming up against a real boss. And Leon already kind of cut him off. He was like, man, we don't need to go with this back and forth. Just know I let my actions in the ring do the speaking for me. And I'm looking forward to facing you off next week, facing off with you next week at New Year's Evil. So quick handshake, respectable. You know it's going to be an A+ match. I do think some new shenanigans are going to come into play, and we might see some surprises. And if I had to book it, I think we might see some surprises coming out of that match, which I'm going to leave. Well, I'll say it. I think Javon Evans might make a heel turn, or at least cost Leon Slater that match, or something with Javon and Leon is going to cause some friction where their partnership is going to start getting some cracks in the ripple, and you might see them kind of split apart at some point. Um, we also had Skylar Ray and Shiloh Hill versus Stax and Ariana Grace. Two season 2 winners from LFG. Shiloh Hill's been having these weird promos. He finally debuted last week. It's a in the words of Randy Jackson from American Idol, it's a no for me, dog. Right now, the promos weren't helping, and then right now it's just I don't know. It seems a little too goofy for me to just kind of buy in. Let's see how it goes. It's early, but right now you got to build. I'm not getting enough care right now out of the Shiloh Hill character, and so it's early. It's early. It's only been 2 weeks and a few promo vignettes, so I'm not writing him off. It's just there's some work that needs to be done to get Shiloh Hill engaged with the audience, or specifically myself. I'm sure there's probably others that are engaged with him. Another Speed Championship tournament match: Andre Chase versus Lexus King. We haven't seen either of them in the ring for a while, so it's good to see them back in the ring together. Lexus King ends up getting the win over Andre Chase, who seems to just be a squash person. I don't know if he'll ever get called up to the main roster, which is a little disappointing because I think Chase U on the main roster would be an interesting. But again, if they're just going to be this weekly squash matches, that's going to be a little disappointing. And finally, the main event of the night: Chelsea Green versus Sol Ruca for I believe it was for the United States Championship match. Yes, for the United States Championship, Women's United States Championship. And Sol Ruca, again, continues to impress. There was a cool move that I felt like it took a little too much time, where she kind of jumped up, did a cartwheel on the top rope, and hit a little kind of kind of cartwheel DDT up the top rope to Chelsea Green. Look cool. Takes too much time to set up for you to suspend your disbelief that that's something that someone would actually stand there for. Some shenanigans at play as well, as you can imagine. Alba Fire ended up holding up her leg, Sol Ruca's leg, which ended up allowing Chelsea Green to hit the unprettier on her and then getting the win to retain her title. But all in all, pretty standard episode of NXT. Again, pre-taped. Can't really say much about it. Again, can't. This whole week of WWE is just, yeah, we know it's pre-taped. You don't have to, kill yourself to go back and watch these again. I think for what it is, it's just, checking a box on the week of wrestling, and we'll continue on next week. You're not really missing much. You can kind of catch up on highlights, but it was enough. I think the two standouts for me, the three standouts, I would say, were all of the promo matches that were all of the promos that kind of got you hyped up for next week's matches for New Year's Evil, which is Javon Evans, Ricky Saints, Thea Hale, Blake Monroe for the North American Championship, and Leon Slater versus Obafemi for the NXT Championship. So, all in all, pretty tame show of NXT at the Bodega. And again, just doing his job to get you ready for next week's plethora of New Year's. It seems like WWE is all in for next week's New Year's week of content that they're putting out. And speaking being all in, as we move over to Wednesday, we did get some current event news coming out that there is a WWE and Stranger Things crossover happening on the January 5th episode of Raw. Not much was put out to say what exactly that pertains as far as what kind of crossover they're doing. Obviously, the colors of Stranger Things and the Raw match with being red and black, so you can imagine some of that. But I'll be curious to see how it plays out. But it obviously makes sense. Stranger Things, the season 5 finale has just come out. We just got season volume 2 of season 5 released on New Year's Eve, Christmas Eve, and the finale, 2-hour finale, which is releasing on December 31st. I have tickets to watch that in theaters, but you can also watch that at home as well on New Year's Eve is coming out. So it just all kind of falls in line. I've seen rumors that maybe Liv Morgan, because she was at a Stranger Things kind of event a few months ago, at a red carpet a few months ago, that maybe that might tie her into some kind of, you know, kind of acting deals or something like that of that nature. I just think it's just, hey, this is content that we have on our platform that we can kind of have synergy across and just kind of help promote that. It makes sense. I'm not expecting too much out of it. It's just an interesting thing to kind of call out. Hopefully, it's not anything like what we got with the what was that Dave Bautista movie where they were fighting zombies or whatnot, and they had that zombie match. I forget, but very forgettable. Hopefully, there's just more. I don't know. I'm curious to see how they integrate some of the Stranger things within the WWE broadcast this week. But let's go to again to the coffee shop, which again has been consistently the best show of wrestling in the past month of December. We are wrapping up the Continental Classic, and for the first time in my booking for the Continental Classic, I do not have any primos, but I think mostly that is because I think a lot of it, the matches were still really great. I do think there was a lot of predictability in how these matches were, especially since we're at the tail end of the tournament. We're getting the finale tonight with the semifinals and then the final match at World's End. My highlights from this, though, were two of the matches. I have them both at mid. Was Takeshita over Orange Cassidy. That's probably my favorite match on the card for Dynamite that so this week. Thought that was great. No surprise that Takeshita was going to win this. We've been setting up this Takeshita Okada matchup for months on end. Takeshita already has one up on Okada through this Continental Classic, so the fact that we're getting part two right now for the semifinals, and there's a lot of implications on that, is going to be really interesting. And then the other surprise finish, uh, Jungle Jack Perry gets the win over Pac in the Continental Classic. I thought that was really entertaining as well, and a bit of a surprise. So I'll bump that up to mid as well. I would have expected Pac to win that. Other match that really stood out to me was Bandito versus Ricochet for the Dynamite Diamond Ring, which Bandito wins that. Afterwards, the shenanigans where he ended up getting jumped and then all that, didn't really care for that. I'd rather have him just kind of celebrate at the end of it. But again, these two guys put on a great match. Bleach Report called it out, which I thought was an interesting thought, was that you would expect both these guys to be a little bit more high flying, but we ended up just getting a very physical, not so much ground based, but there was a very physical match that really highlighted a lot of their different styles that they're able to apply and their versatility. So really enjoyed that match as well. And then a shake that I did really enjoy that I thought was interesting is Mina Shirakawa. No, Marina Shafir got the win over Mina Shirakawa. Uh, I like the fact that we're starting to see Marina in the ring a little bit more. I thought that was pretty interesting. I like her style. I think so far she's been, as far as the transitions outside of maybe Shayna Baszler. I think Shayna Baszler was probably the best kind of mixed martial artist transitioned into wrestler that I've seen so far. But I think Marina Shafir is doing a really good job. I think as far as making that transition and kind of owning a style that you typically don't see, very physical. Like Mina Shirakawa is the better wrestler, but I think the physicality that Marina Shafir brings is really dope. Nice little punch knockout, then got her into the mother's milk submission, basically chucked her out immediately. Tony Storm tries to come and save her, immediately gets knocked out and ends up falling on Mina. Just makes Marina Shafir look like a complete badass. If you already didn't know, the fact that she was kind of having that early China role where China was just kind of like the physical enforcer that basically like you never wanted to step to. Now that she's getting in the ring and really showing that off in several ways, whether it be in the blood and guts match or in some of these other matches that she's been in, is she's been really catching my eye, and I'm really curious to see how that plays out. We also had a lot of continuation of the Continental Classic on Collision. We saw, uh, I don't have it off the top of my head, but we saw some of that. But we'll get into the Collision. We'll get into the Continental Classic matches and the semifinals when we get to the World's End predictions. But I thought, and again, shout out to AEW there at the Hammerstein Ballroom in New York. They did a great job as far as highlighting what those what we're getting ready for World's End. There was also, just to finish out the rest of that card for Dynamite, we had outside of those matches, we had Roderick Strong and Mascara Dorada in a Continental Classic match. Nothing much on the line. Roderick Strong has not had any points. Dorada had, I believe, 3 points at the time. And so Roderick Strong actually got his one. So he didn't go defeated in this tournament. So shout out to him. Actually, he did go defeated. My bad. He ended up winning the next night against Claudio. That's what happened. But so shout out to him eventually getting a win and not getting skunked out in the Continental Classic. But decent match. But again, I think the lack of stakes in both sides just made it seem like, okay, it's a little bit of decent match. But again, you already knew like there wasn't really anything to the match. Neither of these were really true competitors within the Continental Classic. Jamie Hayter and Chris Statlander had a face-off prior to their match at World's End. Chris Statlander, you're a talented wrestler, but the promo work needs to be better. It's not so much what you're saying; it's just the delivery and how it's being expressed. I think just needs to work, and that's just not you. I've seen it in others like Jade and some others are just not as. Again, it doesn't feel like I'm hearing it from the character. It just feels like I'm almost hearing you reading a script. And so I just need a little bit more of just believability in how you're delivering these promos because what you're saying is not anything factually incorrect. It's just more of how is it being expressed. It just loses some of that believability for me where I'm like, it needs a little bit of tonal shift to make it a little bit stronger on that end. MJF was in action, had a squash match, his first ring since his first match since coming back against Dustin Waller. Pretty quick match, nothing really to talk about. The real segment of it was Hangman and Swerve kind of getting back at him and just kind of talking crap back to him and trying to just hyping up the match. Really nothing to write home about. It was a lot of talking that really just felt unnecessary. Weird promo, weird build for the four-way match that's happening tonight, but it is what it is. Called out the Diamond Ring match. That was dope. Though I'm curious to see what does MJF feel about this. I'm sure we're probably going to get MJF versus Bandito at some point because I know MJF gonna be like, "You're not the real Diamond Ring champ. I'm the Diamond Ring champ. He's two-time champ." So I don't know how you're just gonna let that happen and go pass by and not say anything. So I'll be curious to see how that plays out. Maybe that might affect my predictions for World's End when we get to it. And then yeah, that was pretty much it. But a pretty decent show. The best show probably of the weekly television. That and Collision were probably they definitely were the standouts of the of the weekly wrestling shows this week. So that was pretty much Dynamite in the coffee shop. We do not have Book of Wrestling this week. I'm sure there's a lot of stuff. I was lazy upon it, and usually Moody does that, so I take accountability of that, not putting the blame on myself. So we could just jump straight into the boutique SmackDown. Again, this is a quick episode. Again, a lot of stuff to get through. Not a lot of stuff to get through. The main things that we got tonight is the AEW's World's End prediction, so we'll be getting to that fairly quickly. The standout and probably the highlight I found out because again these are pre-tape. I found out about this a week ago when it was released on the Reddit boards. But if you didn't know, now you know. Carmelo Hayes defeated Ilya Dragunov in the United States Champion Open match to become new U.S. champion, which was great. Shout out to them. Obviously, Ilya has been putting barn burners. He's been the highlight of SmackDown ever since he's won the title against Sami Zayn and been continuing this United States Championship Open run. I wonder if Carmelo is going to continue doing that. But yeah, shout out to Melo, man. Well deserved. Glad to see him win a championship, especially black man winning a championship. And yeah, I'm really to see. I'm like again. I feel like even if he does continue to continue to do the United States Championship Open, he's gonna keep that steady stream of what John Cena to what Sammy and now Ilya have been able to do. I think he's going to be easily to be able to continue to have that run as well. So shout out to Carmelo, our new United States champion, and yeah, that was definitely the highlight of the show. We also got the return of a match that we haven't seen in a long time with when we had a Cody versus Drew promo early in the ring. And Drew was called out there to apologize to the referee that he claymored a couple weeks ago on Saturday night's main event. Drew did it, but he did it in his heelish way, kind of just talking down to the ref. Cody comes out. They have a little bit of back and forth. Nick Aldis eventually makes next week's match a 3 stages in hell match versus him and Cody for the WWE Championship, undisputed championship. So curious to see what type of match type will be used for that match. But hey, it's good to see a different type of match type that we haven't seen in a while. Shout out to also, not even shout out, but call out also. This is the first time I saw since I believe 2021 that we did not have a Hell in a Cell match in a calendar year. So got to get that on board. Glad we don't have the pay per view anymore because those pay per views just kind of diminish the value of Hell in a Cell. Because we all know Hell in a Cell is mainly used to be the end all be all of a rivalry. So the fact that we haven't had one, and there's been plenty of times where you could have probably had that as there's been plenty of pretty heated rivalries that we had throughout the year that you could have probably predicted a Hell in a Cell match would have been a good opportunity to have used it. But surprise, maybe absence makes the heart grow fonder. So I think when we do get the Hell in a Cell match, hopefully it's not at the team pay per view. I don't think they're going to do that, but hopefully when we do get it, it is going to reach back. It's going to get back to that value of what we used to have Hell in a Cell as being the end all be all, the top match type that you can get if you were in a very heated rivalry. So, but yeah, shout out to Cody and Drew for bringing back a new match type. Outside of that, the other thing that stood out to me, I have this as Shake. I guess quote unquote free agency is back, and I guess free agency has started in the WWE. Trick Williams was backstage. He had a nice little confrontation with Nick Aldis initially, where Nick was like, "When I told you to make yourself at home, I didn't mean that you could, just put your feet up on my desk." And then Trick, even his black dynamiteness and all, just talking about how I had to make my lemon pepper stuffers all comfortable and whatnot. And Cody comes in wanting to have a word with Nick Aldis. Trick initially leaves, comes back, and then as a big back to a little confrontation. But Trick was also mentioning how he's got offers from Adam Pierce to be on Raw, and so he's trying to like, if you want me to be on SmackDown, you got to make me a good offer to make my thirst, to give me my thirst to come here to be on SmackDown. Obviously, I think he's going to be on SmackDown. His fiance Lash Legend is on SmackDown, and WWE likes to keep partners together for simplicity of travel and whatnot and ease of life. So expect Trick to be on SmackDown in the long term. That also sets us up for eventually a Trick and Mellow clash reunion. We'll see what happens with that, but I can see Trick definitely being a uh, a rival for Carmelo's new United States Championship match. So that should be definitely on the lookout. We also got word that Joe Hendry is officially on SmackDown, I believe. I think, and through the rumor mill, it is said that the USA Network specifically wanted to have Joe Hendry on it. So take that for what it is. But we have 2 new members of the Raw SmackDown roster. One officially, one we are penning in with as Trick Williams, which leaves Javon Evans and Obafemi. I guess assuming they're going to go on Raw, we'll see what happens with that. Obafemi did have a promo vignette on a vignette on SmackDown, but he can. If you're already getting 3 people on, you don't. You gotta. I feel like there's got to be a split, and so if you already got 2 people on SmackDown, it feels like those 2 are gonna go on Raw. But we'll see how that plays out. Free agency was brought up last year, and it's just kind of they mentioned it, and they're like, "Oh, we're or they called it the transfer period or whatever it is," but never really anything really came out of it. So let's see what happens, what they do when with this year with it. But I thought that was interesting. Other things on the card, just to kind of be thorough with it, we did have an opening segment where Joe Hendry came out and he was having his little concert, just kind of making fun of the Miz, singing Christmas Carol, talking about the Miz's balls were too small and whatnot. That brought out the Miz, talking about how he's still the face of this company, and especially now that John Cena is gone, he is the de facto locker room leader. He did his great all timer. When my hands goes up, your mouths go shut. I love that from the Miz. But yeah, quick match. Pretty ended up with Joe Hendry getting the win. We had Lash Legend versus Charlotte. That was a pretty entertaining match. I probably have that as Shake as well. Charlotte ended up getting the win over Lash, but again, she made Lash look really good. Had Lash basically had most of the offense in that match up until the end, where Charlotte was able to get the win. You can expect that. Charlotte is a 15-time world champion, legend in herself. So Lash just got here, but she's been making her presence felt. She looked great in it. No understandable loss to take here. Getting called out, primo of the show, Ilya Dragunov, Carmelo Hayes. Carmelo getting the win over that, becoming a new United States champion. Um, the Green Regiment, I guess that we have the Secret Service is no longer, since it's only a 2-woman group now. But yeah, they were in a tag team match against Julia and Kiana James. Julia and Kiana James ended up getting the win. I've been seeing a lot of feedback on the interwebs about just Julia's run on the main roster and how it's been underwhelming. Not out of everyone has been clear to say that is not a fault of Julia. Is more of the creative decision is in the booking. We'll see how that becomes elevated in 2026, because Julia is definitely a talent, and hopefully she ends up, figuring out her way into a world championship slot, whether it be on Raw or SmackDown. Obviously, Julia versus Stephanie would be a great highlight. And then on SmackDown, I'm blinking on who the women's champion is. Jade Cargill, that should be fun as well. But if anyone have had to pick, I would definitely like to see Julia versus Stephanie, even though we did see that in NXT. But either way, Julia definitely needs to be have a breakout year next year. The booking definitely needs to be on her side next year. And yeah, Cody and Drew McIntyre promo that kind of left us with the announcement that we get 3 stages of hell next week. So again, pretty tame episode. Probably between Raw and SmackDown, this was definitely the better episode that we get between the WWE products. But again, it's the Christmas week, holiday week, pre-tapes. Can't grade it too harshly. Again, if this was any other week, WWE, you'd be getting a lot more smoke out of this. But it's the holidays. We can let it slide. We can let it slide. You're building up for next week, so that's interesting. And speaking of next week, SmackDown is returning to a 3-hour format for, I believe, up until at least until WrestleMania season. I think last year they went up until June. But yes, unfortunately, SmackDown will be 3 hours starting next week. So much wrestling. So much wrestling. But let's get into what the main thing that we're here for this week, and that is AEW's World End, which is tonight. I believe starts at 7 o'clock. 0 hour starts at 6. We have about 8-9 matches on this card. Right now, we have 8. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 matches. So yeah, AEW's 10 while WWE's 5. A lot of it, half the card is the Continental Classic, which we'll get through. But let's go through the card. Moody still has 2 matches that he still hasn't made predictions for. So if you're listening, Moody, please finish up your predictions. We'll start off with the Mixed Nuts Mayhem match. Death Riders, Claudio, Daniel Garcia, Wheeler Yuta, and Marina Shafir versus the Conglomeration and Mark Briscoe, Orange Cassidy, Roderick Strong, and Timeless Tony Storm. Moody has the Death Riders. I can understand that. I do think this is a bit of a toss up, but I feel like with Tony Storm getting knocked out the way that she did on this past week's episode of Dynamite, I'm gonna go with the conglomeration here. I think the Death Riders, they've been great, especially within the Continental Classic, outside of Claudio with this upset loss to Roderick Strong on Collision this week. But Claudio's look great, Pax look great. Um, Daniel Garcia and Wheeler Yuta did end up jumping Bandito afterwards, I believe, earlier this week when the what you call it. So maybe there is some interference on that side. I just think the way that Marina took out both Mina and Tony just leads me to saying that the conglomeration ends up getting the win on this. Um, and I'm mistaken, Moody, you did actually do yours because you actually just predicted the final. Um, so Continental Classic semifinals. Moody has the Death Riders for the mixed match. So Continental Classic semifinals. The first one we have listed here is Takeshita versus Okada. If Okada loses, the AEW Continental Championship and AEW Unified Championship will be momentarily vacated, guaranteeing a new Continental Champion in the final. He has Takeshita winning over over Okada. I'm kind of leaning that way as well. Um, I predicted. Oh yeah, it's implied. Yeah. No, I got you, Moody. I'm not changing your mind. Or did if you want to change your mind? Thanks for being on side for the Death Riders or the conglomeration. You have the chance now before I finish this card. If you feel like changing your mind on anything, let me know in the chat. But yeah, I I kind of want to lean to Takeshita. Takeshita is 1-0 on him in this match in the Continental Classic, which makes me feel like Okada might pull some shenanigans out there to cheat him out of this. But I'm gonna go Takeshita. I just feel like I just feel like this is what we've been building up to. I think there's gonna be a big hit to Okada's ego when he gets to if he takes his loss to Takeshita. And I'm gonna go with that. So we agree upon that. And then you have Moxley over Kyle Fletcher. Uh I'm going to disagree with here, and I'm gonna say it's a Don Callis family final and Takeshita versus Kyle Fletcher to determine the new Continental Classic champion in my final. So we differ on that, which brings our finale. You have Moxley over Takeshita becoming the new Continental Classic champion. In my bit, I have Takeshita versus Kyle Fletcher. And this is where I think Okada's ego is going to be so bruised to losing to losing to Takeshita earlier in the night that I have Kyle Fletcher beating Takeshita due to shenanigans of Okada costing Takeshita the match because he was so butthurt that Takeshita beat him earlier in the night. So I have Takeshita right now. You said the only two prediction I might change is Fletcher winning instead of Max or Mox. Let's see if you. Okay, never mind. Yeah, you just changed it. So you got Fletcher over Takeshita. So we basically agreed now. No worries, no worries. We still have a differing opinion as far as at least one on the card. Darby Allin versus Gabe Kidd. This match came out of nowhere to me. I'm probably sure most of this probably storyline happened on Collision. Darby was off TV injured. He was, in the hospital room, neck brace, and looked like he just got hit by a car. He got thrown down steps again this week by Gabe Kidd. I'm gonna go Darby. Just because I feel like Gabe Kidd's had the upper hand on him for the last few weeks. That Darby's gonna get his lick back on this. AEW World Tag Team Championship match, the Chicago Street Fight, FTR versus the Bang Bang Gang. I'm going to go FTR as well as Moody. We agree upon that. Um, Not much there to write about. Next match that we have here also listed AEW's Women's World Tag Team Championship match. The Babes of Wrath versus Mercedes Moné and Athena. Moody has Mercedes and Athena winning and becoming new Women's Tag Team Champions. I think it's a little too soon. I completely understand. Is that still called Claudia overthrowing the leadership to stall Claudia? Okay. My only thought was that Mox would be earning an extra life with the Death Riders by winning the title to stall. Okay, that makes sense. Again, I wouldn't be surprised. I could definitely see a world where Mox ends up winning this. I just think the Duncan House family friction is a little bit more of an interesting storyline. I do think you could still create that friction between the Death Riders, especially if you are correct and the Death Riders win that mixed nets match earlier in the night and Mox ends up losing. Hey, we handled our business on our side. What about you? Maybe that happens. But getting back to the women's tag team match, I completely understand you said they should never be better than Athena. They need to do better by Athena and they shouldn't be able to pin Athena, but they know they will. I know it's too early. Again, I would not be surprised if Mercedes and Athena. I just think that there's more of an ego between. I think you're building up the rivalry between Athena and Mercedes, and I think Mercedes ends up maybe walking out on Athena, and then Athena ends up just getting, you know, basically being in a handicap match at the end of it that we get the Babes of Wrath winning and retaining their titles. I think it's just been a little too. It's been too early. It's only like they're only holding the title for 2 weeks. Like, nah, you gotta finish it out. You gotta finish it out a little bit longer. Chris Statlander versus Jamie Hayter. Um, That was a very unimpressive stat promo for me from Chris Statlander. Makes me kind of want to go with Jamie Hayter. How long has he? Babes of Rap debut a new tag team finish to Pin Athena? That could be interesting as well. Uh so are you changing your Babes of Rap prediction, or are you keeping Mercedes and Athena, or are you just saying either way? Um, I almost kind of want to see. I feel like Stats probably had it for a little. I think Stats had it for a good time. I, uh, hmm. I'm gonna go Stat. Yeah, I'm letting the promo get to me. I'm gonna go Stat to retain her championship against Jamie Hayter. And then finally, the four-way match for the AEW World Championship: Samoa Joe versus Swerve versus Hangman versus MJF. Moody has Samoa Joe retaining. Uh, I want to lean Joe. I definitely don't think Swerve or Hangman are going to win this. Samoa Joe is probably the favorite. Second would be MJF. Athena turned in her contract and ended up losing. Are we gonna have both of these people lose their cash ins? MJF did just get beat down. I There is a numbers advantage of the ops. I'm gonna go the upset. MJF. No, well, again, if yeah, because I'm like, is does he care about the diamond ring? Maybe I'm gonna go MJF. I'm gonna go MJF. I know. Yeah, I agree. It's either Joe or MJF. Swerve and Heyman are not winning. I I just feel like MJF to come back. have a squash match and then immediately get jumped by both Swerve and Hangman. Obviously, Swerve and Hangman are probably gonna cancel each other out because one person can only win the match. That leaves MJF versus Samoa Joe. Samoa Joe has the ops, which obviously gives him the numbers advantage, but I wouldn't be surprised if MJF just somehow wormed his way out of in winning this championship though. So you say he doesn't care about it. I feel like his ego might allow it, but I'm gonna stick with it. I'm gonna go MJF becomes the new AEW World Championship champion. And again, it's World's End. I just feel like it fits symbolically. And that would be essentially outside of the Continental Classic, which we are both predicting Okada will be losing. We do we get whoa, it almost makes me want to switch Takeshita over Okada. Maybe Takeshita ends up costing Okada the match because Okada did some shenanigans. I'm gonna go Okada actually. So I got Okada over. I got Okada over Takeshita. So we get their series tied up 1-1. Then I got Takeshita costing Okada his championship against Kyle Fletcher, allowing Kyle Fletcher to be the new Continental champion. So I'm gonna go. That's gonna be my booking, and then I'm gonna go MJF winning the championship over Samoa Joe. So all in all, we have 1, 2, 3, 4 matches, 5 matches that we differ upon. So we are easily going to get a decision here for this card. Right now, overall, before we end the year, I currently have the season lead at 6 wins, 5 losses, and 10 ties. Moody is obviously the inverse of that at 5 losses, 6 wins, 10 ties. So one of us is either going to go up. I might be going up uh, 2 points on the season, or we might be ended up back at 500. Overall record, I'm still down. I have not. I'm on a +1 on a dent here. I'm 11, 18, and 13. Moody's 18, 11, and 13. But we are here at the end of the year, our last pop-up show of the year, World's End, which will be happening in a couple hours, and we will have a decided winner on this card. Let's get into our champions of the week. I'll kind of start with mine. Mine was quick. I kind of mentioned it earlier, but mine is going to be the Ezel. Oh, my back, my neck, and my back to Io Sky for how she sold her back injury when uh Kyrie Sane pulled her leg off the apron, and then she ended up hitting her lower back on the side of the ring mat. Again, the way Eos just sold it and just screamed out in pain, I just thought was hilarious, but it just makes sense. Um, but yeah, I thought that was just hilarious and how she sold it. And yeah, so she gets my Ezel's oh my back, my neck and my back title for that. And then Moody is establishing and new Dave Chappelle. Nah, nigga, don't do that. That's 5 to 10. The Tatum Paxley for attacking the culling with a chainsaw, like old Terry Funk in his Chainsaw Charlie days. Random, but it was good to see. We haven't seen a chainsaw in a while. It's funny when they do those chainsaws because when you do get close up, you can definitely see that the chainsaw is not actually moving. They just kind of have the sound effects to it, but it still works. It's an interesting kind of gimmick. It's funny though, like when somebody comes out with the chainsaw, because like they're not going to be hitting somebody with that, but it's an interesting weapon to bring out at time. So that was hilarious to see. And that is our episode. This is our lightest and leanest episode that we've had. Again, this is what happens when you get a whole bunch of pre-taped wrestling on the week is you get a pretty quick episode. But again, we did not want to leave y'all hanging here on these holiday episodes. Thank you for everyone that was joining. Thank you for Moody for being in the chat and adding some context to your things. You agreed with me in saying that whoever wins the Okada and Takeshita match will interfere in the finals. That's what we got. We have World's End in a few minutes, in a few hours. We have 10 card matches on the card. We are splitting our decisions, 5 different opinions on here. So it will be fun to see how that plays out. Next week, like I've mentioned, will be our uppies, our second annual uppies. I can go through some of the categories that we have here. This year we have men's superstar all around, women's superstar, men's worker, in ring ability, women's worker, tag team, faction, TV segment, weekly TV angles, OMG moments, pay per view, PLEs, pop up shows, heel turn, rivalry, breakout star, huge level up, or we didn't know them last year, finisher, match of the year, and we're also adding at least 2 more in weekly television show of the year and pop-up show of the year. So you will get all of that next week, as well as next week's recap of everything that happened on the weekly television shows. And that is it for us on episode 77 of the Wrestling Rehab podcast. Yeah, Moody, I called that out. Fun fact was 2025 did not have a Hell in a Cell match. So I'm hoping that we get next one next year and it actually brings back that value that we have on Hell in a Cell as being one of the premier matches in wrestling. So, but yeah, that is it for episode 77 of the Wrestling Rehab podcast. Thanks for everyone joining. Thanks for everyone for participating. We'll catch y'all next week. Follow, like, subscribe the video, comment, share. Email us at the Wrestling Rehab Podcast at Gmail, and we will catch y'all next week for episode 78 of the Wrestling Rehab Podcast. Thanks, everyone. Peace.